All right. Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Entrepreneurs International Network. I'm Patrick Diamond, your host, and I'm excited today to be introducing Eric Asbeck. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important subject, and that is, how do you take that dream that you've got, that vision, and turn it into something that makes money, and not just that makes money, but is a sustainable business. And this is something that many people struggle with. Maybe you're struggling with it. So if that's you, or you know somebody who it is, that I've got a friend who, then you're going to want to sit tight because we're going to give you some great tips today. Eric is going to blow your mind a little bit, I think, on some of the things that really we need to be focused on. So I want to introduce Eric without any further ado. So Eric has learned to become a resilient entrepreneur. He overcame personal challenges, including a difficult divorce and a cancer diagnosis, to empower others to live fulfilling lives in harmony with a business that they love. With a background in engineering and business, Eric first channeled his entrepreneurial passion into creating innovative solutions in corporate roles before starting his own business. In alignment with his own passion, Eric now focuses on helping people have resilience and the mindset that they need in order to stay focused on their number one goal, keeping that main thing the main thing. So his expertise and personal experience help him advocate for focus, adaptation, and inspiration to create a harmonious life and business. I'm very pleased to present Eric Asbeck. Welcome, Eric.
Hi.
How are you?
I get tickled by the intro there. Thank you very much.
so, so Eric, today we're talking about getting unstuck, right? Um, so before we get into that, maybe you could tell us a little bit about why this is an important topic to you.
Well, I'll say there's kind of two sides to that, I guess. One being kind of my own personal story, which you touched on. I wanted to have. My dad worked on starting a business when I was a kid. He put many hours and time into it, and many years. And just the way things went, there's a longer story behind it, but bumps in the road, and he ended up not being that business didn't become a reality, and he pivoted and left the corporate world and went into business with my uncle, and he and mom did great, but it always stuck with me. One, the idea that entrepreneurship was this powerful engine to get things done, and um, also kind of if you know how to pull the levers right, a great way to help your family and yourself, as well as make a difference in the world and all that. Um, so I've just had that in my mind. I took the more corporate route, as you mentioned, and I still had that desire to have a business of my own. I satisfied it by creating new products and businesses inside the companies I worked for, and partnerships with other companies on things that we could go together jointly to market with, things like that. And when it finally came time in my life to that I had the opportunity to start my own business, I actually started helping entrepreneurs, that people that wanted to start a business, create a business they loved and they could confidently deliver. And as time went on, I realized that there are also entrepreneurs that had created businesses that were successful, but they were miserable. I mean, the first person I worked with that way was super successful, and all of a sudden he disappeared. And when I tracked him down, he said that he just was feeling like a fraud and all that, and maybe he should just get a real job. And I knew he was an entrepreneur, so I made him do some work that I had my other clients do. And he came back and said, first of all, wow, I am an entrepreneur. Like, he got it. He saw it for himself. And then the second thing, I made him look at what he wanted for all the roles and relationships in his life. And he realized he loved acting, musical theater, and he loved his wife. And he said, if I don't have either of those two. They're non-negotiables. If they're not around, everything else falls apart, and that's what happened. He was just not. He was not serving his whole self,
Mm.
and so he shifted and went into a business that served all those things. He was able to get audition for acting roles on the side and spend evening weekends with his wife when he wasn't in practice, um, in rehearsals. So long and short of it, that led me through a series of things, and here I am now, helping folks uh, figure out. They have a dream, they have a vision, they know they want to create something. Maybe they've already started with a business, but it's not sustainable. And so, how can you take what you know is important to do and it's going to have a real impact on people's lives in the world, and turn it into a business that's sustainable? It's like a real business
Hmm.
versus kind of a funded hobby.
Yeah.
And it just turns me on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I know as well. I've seen that so many times, and as a coach and consultant, it can be heartbreaking. There's one business in particular that I can think of that I was brought into because the woman wanted to sell the business, and actually, there's I just realized the other ones start popping up. It's a
Yeah,
similar story to
it's
others.
like it's like
Yeah,
not a unique story, right?
yeah, right,
Unfortunately.
yeah, where and it basically ended up that I had to say, "You're not. I'm sorry, but there's nothing to sell," right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't own the actual location, and the person was also managing the business and leaving, right?
Mm,
So you know, when so many people, I think, do have, like you said, I like that you said that, a funded hobby, and they don't even realize it. It happens quite a bit. So let's cut to it in that most businesses are going to fail. From your perspective, having worked with so many entrepreneurs and putting together so many programs, why is that?
um, there's so many things that can happen. Um, you know, uh, for a while there, I was teaching a course on staying focused on your number one goal, and it's like distractions and going down the wrong path, and chasing, going down rabbit holes, um, kind of trying. There's actually a syndrome that I've found for myself and for others. I call getting ahead of your headlights, where there's all kinds of great guidance on what to do in a business and how to make it work, and you start hearing about these, I'll call them advanced strategies,
Mm,
and you go after them,
yeah.
and like, oh well, let's run an event, let's do, like, there's all these different things,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
haven't put the fundamentals in place. I mean, you
Yeah.
just don't have the kind of foundational engine there that is going to, it is serving a market that you want to serve, that aligns them and you, and that you have a transformative system, a process that is going to, that is going to, something that's going to really make a difference in people's lives, and you have an effective way of becoming known
Yeah.
consistently for that thing. And there's some stuff like, and then your background systems and like mechanisms in place. But I guess it's not it's not complicated as much as it's not easy. You have
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
plot. You have, like, if you know where you want to, if you know the steps you need to take, you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
But if you start from the ground up, then that makes that makes all the difference. Otherwise, you end up kind of chasing one thing and another, and
Yeah.
finding yourself not making money, and it's just not turning in anything. And also, um, if you really think in terms of like a business, if you thought in terms of making a business that's saleable, um,
Mm,
even if you're not going to sell it,
yeah.
you're forced to put in processes and systems that are that you can have, as you hire people, that they can take them over, and you've got like this you've got things kind of tuned in a way, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
There's a discipline in that. So
Yeah.
that's like an advanced thing, but I'm responding to that one story that you just told. Um,
Yes.
but it all starts with building it from the ground up systematically.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I first started business, I had an idea, I had a business plan. I have an MBA, and I went back and did a kind of double mini MBA in entrepreneurship, and had a business plan and all that stuff. But then when I got out there in the world, people are like, "Oh, here's a thing you need to do, and here's a thing you need to do." And
Yep.
I fell into that very trap that I just told you about.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So,
trap
and
of being ahead of the headlights, right? So,
mhm.
and
Or
that's
being
something also.
distracted by
Yeah.
other things, like all that. Mhm.
And the distractions, it's so easy to get caught up in the distractions because, you know,
They're
and I don't know
so
if you find
enticing.
and it's enticing because it's hard. What we're doing as entrepreneurs. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and so when something is slightly painful, I mean, it was Elon Musk said that being an entrepreneur is like staring into the abyss and chewing glass. And
Well, that's a visceral metaphor.
yeah, and it can be true. So of course, if we're staring into the abyss, chewing glass, and then we're telling ourselves that, of course, then it's like, oh, I could go over here and not chew glass for a while. It gets very easy to do. And so at the same time that of course that just increases the time that we have to stare into the abyss and chew the glass part. So, embrace the suck as well, right?
Right. Well,
So,
he also has like this 5-step process, and I'm trying to remember all of them, but to to
mm,
um, to get your business lined up and
yeah,
get systems running, and the very last one is automating and all those sort of
yeah,
things. The very first
yes,
one is
exactly.
question everything and
Yeah.
ruthlessly remove anything that isn't essential.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like don't
it's
iterate something that shouldn't even be in there, like basically, right,
Well,
as
that's
well.
step two. Step one is just like cut things to the bone in terms like
Yeah.
question everything you're being told, and like, do I really need to be doing that?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
and then from there, you know, um, stripping things out. And like he says, if you don't put 10% back in
Mhm.
from things you stripped out, you're not cutting deep enough,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and so forth and so on. But the whole idea is there's so many different things that you could kind of throw in and like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I see
Yeah.
somebody that's maybe not, like Tony Robbins, but somebody that's more close to where you think you are, and they're doing that, and you're like, oh, I should do that, and like your plate starts to fill
Yeah.
up, and you have all these unnecessary things, and it's
Yeah.
actually really difficult to keep it narrowed down. There's a quote that's attributed to Mark Twain and a bunch of other people, but the quote is essentially, "I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time." The point
Ooh,
being
that's
that
a
it
really
takes a
good one.
lot of
Yeah.
work to keep it tight.
That's really good. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So there's also the, in Napoleon Hill stuff, for every, 1 hour of planning, we save 4 hours. And one thing that I find quite frequently with students and clients, and I wonder if you do too, is that people get so they just want to get started. They just want to get started. They just want to
Of
get
course.
started and
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 and there's
then
and being an action taker is a positive thing,
mhm,
because there's the analysis by paralysis kind of version of
mhm,
things too, right? Where you're just forever planning. So
yeah,
jumping in is good, but
yeah, at the same
take a
times
moment.
often, yeah, because oftentimes what I find is, and I'll loop back to a lot of those people, and they're still there looping, right? They're
Right.
still where they were, while the other people who were able to take a breath, calm down, and realize that, hey, I'm not dying here, right? they end up moving forward so much more. So could you talk a little bit about that? What causes that? I mean, how do you handle that?
So, well, there's like what causes that, and then how do you handle it? Kind of two different questions. So, I guess it's easy to like you need a certain level of anxiety to be to operate effectively. If you don't have enough, then you just sort of kind of like chilling and like, well, no problem, even if the house is kind of burning and you need to get out of the chair and move. Um, and then there's the other level of it where you're like way stressed out and your brain is so jangled that you can't wrap your head around a single thought.
Mhm.
And there's that like in between level. So and there's a whole neuropsychology about that. But in terms of like how to handle when you're kind of hitting that jangle level, which is I think what your question was. Um, I you need to do just what you were saying. Step back, take a breath. I mean, really, take a breath, oxygenate, like let yourself breathe, and take a look at where you are. Like, okay, this is the situation. I am here. This is what's happening. Some of it I don't like, but that's the reality of it. And by the way, I am not here. These other things that I kind of wish were aren't really there. Like so
Yeah.
you get really clear about exactly where you are, because that's um, in reality you are exactly where you are, and there's no other place for you to start in that moment. And then if you have some clarity about where you want to be going, then you can take a step in that direction, like forward movement toward that. And the clearer you are about where you want to be going, the more directional you can be in that step moving
Yeah.
forward. And as you do that, um, you can reward yourself. So there's a whole dopamine reward system thing going on with it. But taking a forward movement step and then allowing yourself to feel the reward that you did something that was positive, that moving you toward where you want to go, uh, starts to get a little engine going.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, now I'm here. Repeat,
Yeah.
reward.
Yeah.
Now I'm here, and it sort of trains those neurocircuits,
Yeah.
like
And
strengthens
that's
them to do
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
keep doing
because you're
that.
building, building, building. And then so that's another important thing to talk about is that there's so many impoverished entrepreneurs out there, right? And a lot of people who they feel like they're in this poverty cycle over and over, and then of course they just get more uh, they just become more kind of despondent even at the point. So one thing that I see that people have a tendency to do is they they set their goals way too broad. So they say their version of success is I'll be successful when I have 5 million, when my business has made $5 million, when really maybe they should be focused on I just need one $500 sale, right? So that's kind of what you're talking about there too, right? So having the ability to get the dopamine hits along the way, that kind of takes it away. Could you talk about that a little bit? Because I think so many people undervalue the importance of setting manageable goals, right, for that dopamine,
Mhm.
versus this big long trek. Like if I'm in California and I need to go to New York, that's my journey versus okay, I'm in Los Angeles and I first need to get to Phoenix, Arizona, right?
Mhm.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So there's two parts to what you said there too. One is the mindset flaw of once I get to a certain place, then I'm going to be happy.
Mm,
Whether it's money or whatever it is, getting that relationship, or I don't know, it could be a million things. Some composite of a bunch of stuff. But Um, there's a it's interesting in terms of the neuroscience of it. You actually your body your your neurocircuitry appreciates the rewards you for the effort, not just the achievement, like the
Mhm.
attainment of a goal. You're rewarded by the effort. And if you do what we just talked about a moment ago, then you kind of reinforce that reward. But it's already happening in you. And as you as you ironically as you get to a as you achieve a goal, um, there's like a kind of a letdown. And if you don't have like what's next in your mind, then it's sort of like that whole engine gets clogged up and
Yeah.
kind of grinds to a halt. And you can even go on the other side of it and feel a little depressed because it's sort of
Yeah.
like, okay, now I'm here and it's not as fulfilling as I thought it would be. So there's all of that kind of thing that's going
Yes.
on. But
Because there has to be a
when
ladder,
you're
kind of, like what you're saying. There
well,
needs to be
so
a
let's
kind of a
talk
ladder.
about
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that. So first, what I just talked about has to do with like not being satisfied because you're not where you said you need to be, and then actually when you get there, maybe it's not as fulfilling as you wished it was, or you get let down. But the other piece is how do you plan, like how do you do that? How do you get from Los Angeles to New York? And the very first thing you do is take that first step, which is like, let's say that you're already packed and things, put things in the car and turn it on and go drive out of your driveway on the route that's going to take you through, let's say, the Mojave Desert to get you to Las Vegas. Just making that up. Like that's your, you have this long route, but you got it. Like it's the little micro steps of things
Yeah.
that is the key. Um, and by the way, if you say even like, okay, first step is for me to get from LA to Vegas, and all on the way you're like, man, I'm not in Vegas. I'm not in Vegas. You're driving along.
Yeah.
I'm not in Vegas. Well, that's really kind of anti-rewarding you, right?
Yes,
It's more like,
absolutely.
oh, cool. Well, I am, look how I'm driving through the Mojave Desert, and it's like, wow, this is an amazing place. It's like the air. It's so arid
Yeah.
and but it's beautiful in its own way, and I'm in this moment, and I know I'm moving that direction. I mean, there's whole
Yeah.
psychology of that. So if you have a
Yeah.
business and you want to you want to make $1 million, first of all, do you really know what $1 million is? Like, can you really wrap your head around
Yeah.
that, or could you say,
Yeah.
I want to make $100,000 this year? Like
Yeah.
maybe, like, and I can wrap my head, I can touch that. So
Yeah.
great. So set your goal there. But how do you do that? Well,
Yeah.
first, I mean, there's a bunch of things you need to do. You need to know, you know what your purpose is and where you're going with
Yeah.
it, and what your message is, and connecting with people. Like there's a whole set of steps, but
Yeah.
it starts with actually putting some foundational things in place and then making your first clients.
Yeah.
Having your first
Yeah.
client, and then the next
Yeah.
one, and the next one. And along the way, let's say you set your goal for, I'm going to make $100,000 at the end of the year, and you don't.
Yeah.
Well, if you had done nothing, it would be zero, and you're going to learn along the way. And so you can just, as you're going along, kind of keep track of your metrics, I guess you could say, like,
Yeah.
like keep track of the real, like the important things, like money you made, how many contacts you made, like how do when you did a
Yeah.
talk and you
Your
made an
wins.
offer, how many people
Yeah.
converted. I mean, there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know that the people that are like, I don't want to deal with numbers. I got it. But there's ways you can put systems and stuff in place that'll keep track of that stuff for you. But you need to know where you are. And that's part of that, knowing where you are each moment, each step along the way, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
being okay with it, and being happy with it, right? I mean, because that's where we need dopamine, right? To be able to be able to make it. And now, and let's talk a little bit about the why, and how that is such a critical component of our neurochemical makeup, right? And so maybe you can talk a little bit too about how that, but just shifting the way we look at something, how our motivation can shift and our business can be much more successful just by looking at the why we're doing something and considering impact, for instance.
Yeah. Um, well, like I'll just use the analogy that Patrick and I were talking before the call, and we were kicking this around, and it's like two people running a 10K, and one of them is just sort of like his buddy roped him into it, and there he is. These are two guys, just one his buddy's kind of roped him into it, and he's there, and another one is like, you know, my son had cancer, and he's okay now, but this hospital made a huge difference in saving his life, and uh, I am going to. I've got a. I said I was going to run this 10K, and I've signed up a bunch of people that are going to make no donations, and I'm going to give that to the hospital because I want that good work to continue. So it's like who's going to finish?
Yeah.
Who has the more higher likelihood of finishing to start with?
Yeah.
But also along the way, and even in preparation for it, there's a whole different motivation behind it, and so um, and everyone has kind of a purpose that's generated from when you were very, very young. And you sort of click into a certain something that you found is what kind of makes you successful. And you get the attention of your parents and your friends. And, and you sort of, there's something. And it's interesting because as time goes on, you can get strayed from that. You go to school and they're like, oh, you should do this, and you go there, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where it's like, okay, the game is money. I'm just going to do what I have to do, but it's not. It's leaving you empty.
Mm.
And if you can connect in with that
Yeah.
purpose, like what that life source for you is, that life purpose, whatever you want to call it. Um, you're channeling something that's kind of fundamental to you, and you're unique. I mean, everyone has their unique story, um, and especially for the kind of people we're talking about, they have something that they know is important. They want to get out into the world, and here's the thing: it's a huge world out there, and there are people that are searching for what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's
I know how
sometimes,
weird
I
it
mean,
is.
and yeah, and the thing is, you can be out there and you're not finding them and get discouraged, right? But part of that is you haven't figured out, you know, here's my purpose, here's my message, here's how I can connect with people so that I'm telling a consistent story, and people are like, okay, I know who to refer you to, and there and like get like there's a whole marketing kind of thing involved in helping people to find you so that you can serve them. And
Yeah.
but it starts with that fundamental why. That's like that is the spark.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are
I hope.
you at the race start in the first place? Which, gosh, it's kind of crazy because so many people get three-quarters of the way through the race and they give up, right? And it really comes down to, again, just taking the time at the beginning of the race to really consider, why am I here? How am I making an impact with
Yeah.
this? And it gets dismissed so often, and it's one of those things that you wish you could kind of just kind of smack people upside the head, and be like, hey, listen, this is the most important thing.
Well,
But
when you see a seed, like when you see flowers come up in the spring, it's like they just you see them kind of pop up. What is it? Irises? Is that the one that comes up in the very first? Anyway, there's like all of a sudden, or daffodils, maybe it is. But I remember when I was a kid, I used to catch the school bus by walking down to the end of our lot and kind of down the hill, and as when I would come back, there was a little patch of, I think it was daffodils, that would pop up, and Mom said with this, I could, your mom loves you when she says something like, I know when it's spring because you bring me daffodils, because they popped up. Now, why do I talk about all that? It's because it just looks like they kind of like emerged. But in reality, they've been underground working hard, putting out root structure and gathering their energy and all that sort of thing, so that when the moment comes, they can kind of break through the earth and emerge. And that's when we see it. But there's been a lot of work that's been going on beforehand,
Yeah.
outside of
Yeah.
our view, and that's like a business.
Yeah.
There's some fundamentals. You just have to kind of keep watering and fertilizing and providing the right conditions, and you're seeing nothing, and you're seeing nothing, and you're seeing nothing. But by laying systematically the solid foundation like that, then you give the space and the conditions for things to emerge.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's a
And
game. There's an old game, Sim City, where what you do is you make sure that you've got the roads and the electrical and the water and all that sort of stuff. And if you do a good job, then the game will start to have houses pop up.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like your job is really that foundational thing. And in a
Yeah.
way, you
That's a great
create
job.
that for your customers, right?
Yeah.
You put in place the things you need to deliver to them, but also how to reach them and get the word and let them come to you, and then make yourself available so that you have an offer, an avenue for them when they connect, so that you've created this space of possibility for them. This, what they can do with the thing that you're offering that's so transformative. And part of your job is to have this offer in hand that you can show to them, that's so irresistible that they're like, oh, of course, because then that offer holds that space of possibility
Yeah.
open for them, so that they can fulfill on it. So you're they're investing in themselves through you to make that transformation happen. But it's
Yeah.
your job to make sure that you provided things so that all of that can happen in that moment when you have that conversation.
And also, I think it's so important to make sure that you haven't exhausted yourself by, like you said in the journey, just going like, oh, I'm not in Las Vegas, I'm not in Las Vegas. So that when somebody is there and says, hey, I need what you have, that you're so exhausted and cynical and beat down that you can't even deliver, which is sad, right? So,
Well,
I mean,
and you're heading to Las Vegas, and there's like a road, but you're like, oh, well, there's this little side thing to go to, and there's that, and there's this, and you're getting thirsty, and you've run out of water, and you're kind of, the gas is starting to get low on the car, and maybe
so
even
you're
that you had to
combining all
go.
those things,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, so by the time you get to Vegas, it's like this arduous trip, because you've just been pulled in so many different directions, and
Yeah.
you've depleted your resources.
Yeah, which are going to be
Um,
pulled anyway, right? But I mean, so you're going to be, so it's planning to be pulled in all directions and saving the bandwidth to do it without also saying, oh my God, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. This
well,
sucks. I'm not
actually,
there yet.
I would say, if you plan to be pulled in all those directions, then it's going to be a tough road.
I guess what I
So
mean there
instead,
is,
what you need to be doing is like having this clear vision of your goal, and like, is this moving me forward toward that or not? And kind
yeah,
of declining all those other kind of things along the way.
yeah,
And
that's
and
what I
and if you
mean.
get and if you
That's
get
what
and
I
if you
mean.
get if you get like exhausted midway, something that's amazingly powerful, um, is to do that step back and figure out one thing that I can do that's going to move me in that direction and reward myself. Um, you know how, like, I don't know if you've had this experience, but sometimes, you can be like with a group, and you're like working on something, and everybody's kind of beat and tired and all that. And like everybody's in a funk, and kind of the energy is drained. Right. And then somebody cracks a joke that makes everybody laugh. And all of a sudden you're like re-engaged. And that's because those you've engaged those neuromechanisms that little flush of dopamine clears out the other stuff that has caused the fatigue and gives you this re-energize, it re-energizes you. And so um, you can use that mechanism,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that means you had to be kind of declining all those side paths, like doing your best to stay like
Yeah.
accept the next thing that's going to move you toward
Yeah.
where you need to go, and rewarding yourself along the way.
And,
Anyway,
and,
there's a lot of
yeah.
neuroscience and
And
all
if,
that.
of course, knowing that those, and I guess maybe the word is instead of playing, knowing that there's going to be things that are going to come up that are going to want to distract you. So just being,
They are.
just being
It's the
ready
reality
for
of
that.
things.
So what would you say are the, um, so someone's feeling stuck, right? They, they feel like they're not getting the traction. Maybe they're feeling exhausted. So, what is your one, two, three, right? Your kind of three-step system to get out of that so that they can stay in the zone of building a successful business rather than, as you called it before, a funded hobby, right?
Right.
So, so what is your process? What would you tell people?
Well, there's a number of steps, but if I kind of boil down to some three kind of essential ones. Um, First is um, do the work to appreciate that you have a unique approach that's valid, and really getting it that there are people out there that are looking for exactly what you have to offer. You have some work to do because then, so, and I'll add, you want to be thinking about your business and what you want in your life and where you want your business to go, what you want it to be. Um, and then there's some work to do to lay the foundation for getting the word out about yourself and becoming known. And business is not a solo thing, even though you feel like you're solo and alone. It's really it's a group effort. So there's a whole thing about uh, making connections with other people that can help to get the word out about you and to reach other people and things. I mean, you know, it, electronic and internet systems just aren't. They don't. They're kind of sort of necessary, but they're not sufficient. You could do a business without any of that, but you
Mhm.
can't do a business without having those people to support you. And then you want to be able to just look at your business logically and take the steps that you need to change, like of your own behavior, and even you actually can train your clients to either look for you that you're always going to be providing free stuff, or that that you're providing value and get paid, like all that. But basically change your own behaviors, the behaviors of your ideal clients, and change the direction your business is heading in, so that um, it feels like a real business.
Okay. And when it comes to, I think that's such an important topic, like the ideal client. So I don't know about you, but I've found that that I fire clients way more frequently than I ever did before, and that has been really helpful.
Yep. Oh,
Of
I
course, I'm
understand.
trying to also get better at earlier on, figuring out if they're the right fit. So I should say that actually I'm now probably firing people less.
Right.
um, so maybe could you talk about that a little bit about how such a big part of traction, of course, we know is understanding your why, being very clear about the impact you're making. But how do you make sure that the clients that you're bringing in and attracting and working with are helping you get down the path to success?
That's a great question. So we talked about fundamentally the first thing you need is to know where you're going, what your vision is, the transformation you offer, um, what you want your business to become. And then you'd think, okay, great. So I need to go out and find people and sell them what I have to offer. And it's really not that. It's if you go out and find people and sell them, then some of them are not going to be a good fit and they're going to leave you, and some of them are going to stick with you and they're going to be wanting to move you in directions you want to go, and it's like it's going to get frustrating and all that. So instead of selling, you could think of your job as looking for a match. Like they want a certain something and you have a certain something to offer, and are those aligned? And the better you can have those alignment conversations, the happier everyone's going to be. And that means the scary thing of saying no to some folks.
Yeah.
Uh, and and the thing is, you have there's a there's a certain, like, there's criteria you can have, and there's also that trust your gut, that you just have to, like, if it doesn't feel like it's going to be a good fit, especially if you're committing to work with somebody for a while, you can think of every sale that you make determines a certain part of how your future is going to be for that period of time, because you make commitments, and if you have the integrity that I know that our audience has,
Yeah.
you're going to want to fulfill on those to the and even exceed expectations. So that means that your life is dedicated to that. So is that somebody that you want to? Is that somebody and something that you want as part of your life and your business?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that could be that's a sometimes can be really tough, especially if it's like I really could use some money right now. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And that kind of ties.
or like this is a big chunk,
Yes.
or this could lead me into this.
Yeah.
But man, it's like there's a whole character building
Yes.
process. And
And
I can't say that I'm the best at it. I mean, everybody's learning, everybody's
yeah.
working on it.
And it certainly does take time and iterations through that. I mean, I find that even with myself, I'm now much more uh, that took some skill building, right? I'm now much more just cautious, and I will. Oh, I'm like, yes, I could really use that money, and I have to say no because it's going to drain me or it could potentially damage my business further. And you never know what's right around the next corner, so that's a really big one and an important thing, I think, for people to be able to take on. So just believe in yourself, know that and remind yourself, I've done the work, I've got something great of value to bring, to your point earlier.
Well, think
And
about it. I mean, I'm looking for a match. Well, my job is to look for a match.
yeah, yeah, someone told me recently, uh, you know, go in, make a friend, and fill a need.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was pretty brilliant, and I've been using that, and it works. So,
Sure. Well,
so Eric, as we
imagine a life where more and more of, like, you keep doing more and more of what you love with
yes,
people you love to hang out with,
yeah,
or you spend the other part of your time is devoted to putting things in place so that you can do more of that.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
pretty
for
good
sure.
life.
And life gets to be pretty freaking awesome that way. So, Eric, what I'd love to do is I'd love to leave people today with, so again, that person out there who's feeling frustrated, feeling stuck. I just would love to leave them with a very simple, like, 1, 2, 3. First, do this. Next, do this. Third, do this. Do it today. Do it now. Do it right after you listen to this. What would that be?
I would say it's sort of
Step one.
one thing. It's sort of
Okay.
one thing.
Okay.
It has a couple parts to it, but you know, you have a certain unique approach to something of value to offer that you know is going to make a difference. So you want to really get that that is of value and that there are people out there looking for it. And kind of inside of that, what do you want for your business and your how you want your life to look and where you want your business to go? And that clarity is at the core of things. And then from there, you can look logically at your business step by step and take the steps you need. And there's a whole sort of step by step process to that. But it
So let's
starts with
get clear on
that
where you want to
clarity.
go and why you want to go there,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Who you want to serve.
So, okay. So one, write down what the one, two, three then would be something along the lines of, one, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be in 3 years, 5 years or so? I mean, then two would be, why does that matter to me more than just I want to make money or, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is then the third would be, it sounds like the third is really, uh, is it the how I'm going to get there, or is it the people I'm going
Just
to
looking well, there's looking at your business logically and what are the steps that you need to take to get from here to
get
there.
there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Eric, so if somebody's looking for help with this and getting a little bit unstuck, so how would they be able to reach out to you?
Well, best thing would be if they wanted to have a conversation, um, and we can see if there's a match. Back to that. um, uh, you can go to go dot. I'll say it and then we can break it down. Go.superfocusedentrepreneur.com/apply.
Okay.
So it's go dot and then super focused entrepreneur. I know that's a mouthful. .com/apply apply.
Yeah, it looks like so. It looks like the link that we have up there. We might have the wrong link, but
Okay.
that's what. Yeah, we have superfocusentrepreneur.com in our system, but we will make sure that we'll have
Well, that would
the
take you to my website, but the
okay.
go.superfocusedentrepreneur.com/apply takes you to a place where you can schedule a call and answer a few questions, and we'll have a conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, really been great having you, Eric. Such an important topic. Again, that does not get enough focus. Really should. It's one of those things, though, that unfortunately a lot of people have to, over and over fail, and further, unfortunately, a lot of people won't make it to the second time because,
Well, there's that old adage that says "fail forward fast."
yeah,
Where
yeah.
it's going to happen, so like get through it.
Thanks again. Thanks again, Eric, for being here today. And for those of you who are just tuning in or hearing the replay on Entrepreneur International Network, please do go to www.eintalks.com. And in 2024, we're launching our new format. Very excited to be doing that. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for those of you who are listening. And we look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Take care.